We are so proud to be part of the Bridge Forum. We are proud because it is a conversation that needs to continue. It is a conversation that needs to continue not only here in Scottsdale, not only here in Phoenix, here in Arizona, but across this country. You have heard in breakout sessions about community relations, community engagement, media relations, multicultural awareness, crisis management, conflict management. That's a lot. You have also listened to some of the stories that hit home for me. Something that rang true with me as I was listening is when someone said that instead of looking for our police force to be guardians over warriors, but to be warriors and guardians.
We all respond to each other. It becomes too much to understand. And this is what this is for, to navigate and journey to what that true answer is. And maybe it's not up to our generation to find that answer. Maybe it's up to us to just bring it one step closer and inspire other people. So with my dynamic of growing up and who am I wasn't the perfect kid. I don't want anyone to say, there's a way, like he made it out.
I
stumbled
job
out.
description and change the bridge, bringing everyone together, understanding that we will not find resolution in one day. I think that's powerful because we have to navigate into the point where we can heal it and not just treat it. And there's nothing wrong with just continuing development of dialogue and journey into resolutions.
It's great to be back in Arizona. I just returned from Washington, D.C. over the weekend, and I want to thank the Bridge Forum and Mayor Jim Lane, the Honorable Art Hamilton, AP Powell, and the Checkered Flag Run Foundation. Americans have read far too many heartbreaking headlines lately about cops being ambushed. These aren't easy things to talk about, but it's crucial that we do, and it's why events like this and gatherings of this type are so important. As leaders in law enforcement and government, we have an obligation to our citizens to be proactive and preventative as possible in our approach to public safety. I really believe that Arizona has been fortunate. We haven't seen some of the tragedies that other places have, but we must also remain vigilant and prepared. This is the third Bridge Forum held in Arizona, and what you're doing here today is sharing best practices, success stories, and lessons learned. And this is critical whether you're in the private sector, the big business community, and I think especially in the public sector. This is crucial to keeping our public and our police safe. And what I notice as a governor talking to other governors is some states do this better than others. I want to challenge you that Arizona should be a model state in this regard.
But our intention is to take all of that information, and we have a strategic planning process here in Scottsdale where every year we look at inputs of information from the community, things that are happening around us, reports that are out there such as the President's report task force on 21st century policing. We look at all of that and we create our strategic plan for our future. This is going to be very much a part of those inputs, so this is very important what came out of today's meeting. We kind of explained a little bit about that, but we talked about our need is to look at ourselves as organizations and see what can we do to make our men and women feel more comfortable and also more engaging and appear to be much more approachable, because you're going to find out that
we discussed accountability and accountability measures for police officers. This notion Mr. Branch brought up about how the thin blue line officers don't report other officers, and we talked about dispelling that notion because all of us reported the majority of our complaints come from a department source, an internal source. That's something we don't talk about much, and perhaps we need to. We are guardians always, fulfilling our highest duties to safeguard people, and warriors when we need to be. And that's the difference. We're not talking about that as much in the foundational aspects of the police academy as we need to. There are a lot of us that are talking about it in our organizations, but we're not talking about it more broadly. And I think we need to get to that.
You're spending more hours doing the job than what I do, and I work about 20 hours a day. So it has to be a true passion. If it's not a passion for what you do, you wouldn't do it. You'd go do something else that pays a little more money.
Well, I mean, this is a great example of the police and the community getting together to discuss issues, share stories, and talk about how we can build a stronger relationship and partnership together.
Is it common for this many law enforcement officers, this many chiefs, this many mayors to come together and do something like this?
Well, I'd say this forum is rather unique because you have a mixture of not just law enforcement executives, you've got community leaders here, but you also have a healthy mix of elected officials. And to get everybody in the room really discussing the same types of things, and especially something as important as this, as far as, maintaining a great and a healthy relationship and partnership between the community and law enforcement, I'd have to say it's great forward thinking. So we kind of walk through each one of those and, kind of bounce the opinion off of all the members of the group, and they did an outstanding job of providing feedback and steps and techniques on how to successfully work through managing a conflict.
So many things you could be doing today. Why was coming here important?
Well, this is a very important day for all of us as one community, and especially us as police chiefs. It's our opportunity to ensure that we're having good communication with our community, that we're listening to our community, that we've opened up that dialogue to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our community. About body cams, in-car camera, and the discussion point about that was having the appropriate training, the use of body cams and in-car camera, and having a level of standards. So it met standards of operation. There were concerns that if an officer is wearing a body cam, they could turn their body a certain direction and they may not capture the video footage. There might be the audio footage. But again, that comes from the leadership of a police organization to provide the requisite training, the standardization, inspect what you expect, and hold people respectfully accountable.
Has it been beneficial being here today, and if so, how?
So it's been tremendously beneficial. So in the breakout session that we had, we talked about multicultural awareness and law enforcement, and we talked about every topic from institutionalized racism to the school resource officer pipeline into the criminal justice system, to really figuring out a way to better communicate with one another. And everyone kind of took the bull by the horns and really fed in information and conversation. It was a really good session. And that every police stop we want to get right. We talked about training and de-escalation. And then we talked about mental health contacts and the need to get police officers into the schools sooner or into the community sooner in order for our kids to really feel comfortable with law enforcement so we don't create the continental divide that we see today.
And my question is actually about something that is really important, which I think everybody has been touching on, but not quite talking about what happens when things go wrong, and that's the culture of the police. Because the folks up there are really talking about best practices. They're the leaders. And they're not necessarily the people who are the junior rank and file who are coming up, who sometimes make mistakes. And one of the things I'm wondering about is the culture of the police when you're instilling those values in the police. Because we as the public feel like the police are supposed to protect us, but sometimes it feels like the police are protecting the police.
So to answer the question really is the same answer to your question, Mr. Hamilton. We've pushed accountability and culture setting down the organizational chart, and we hold the folks to that. And so I have released and demoted more supervisors probably in my history in Scottsdale. I've been as a chief 14 years, been in Scottsdale 15, than I've seen in the entire history of where I came from. Because supervisors know it's their job, it's their responsibility to supervise, to lead, to manage, and to support the mission, which is the community safety. And so I think it's that pushing and that accountability. I think it's holding people accountable, holding myself accountable, disciplined myself a couple times during my tenure. Point is that I think answers your question, also answers yours, Mr. Hamilton, is the fact that I'm very proud to say we are an organization that holds itself extremely accountable from the top all the way down to the bottom.
Why are events like this important?
I think they're important because it talks one-on-one, it talks in a panel, but also had a breakout group that allows us to talk individually. That networking is really important, but also they can ask whatever questions they want, and they get a chance to talk directly to a police chief, but also the police chief gets to talk to the community. And every time you get that opportunity, that is valuable.
Our discussion was about crisis management, and really it evolved more into, I think, the foundational elements of crisis management. It has to do with really the relationships with police and the community, and a variety of issues that we kind of branched off from there. We talked about racial profiling, how to look at that in a police agency, and how do you get rid of it. We talked about implicit bias that we all carry. How do we test for it? How do we look for it? And then what's our training in order to deal with that as well. And then really looking at how do you keep bias from being institutional, or how do you know that you do have institutional bias within your organization?
But what I'm doing for Nielsen is called supplier diversity. So what that means is helping companies owned by women, minorities, veterans, LGBT, helping them to do business with other companies around the world. And so looking at ways to bring that into those communities, educating the youth on how to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to go to school just to work for a corporation. Go to school and learn how you can establish your own company. That's not putting me on the spot at all, because I plan on doing this. You know, this for me, this is not a work thing. You know, this is a lifetime mission, and so I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to help, whether it's with Nielsen or whether
That's
it's
why this forum here today is huge, and it's important. And us as athletes and former athletes, that we get out there and team up with you guys. As an athlete, I felt like I had a strong voice and a stage to be out there and be part of the community. And I'm willing to work and help and be a part of your team, as well as many of the players that play for the different teams here in Arizona.
Just want to let you know that Ken Kendrick, the owner and managing partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, couldn't be with us today. But we've asked Randy Kendrick to come up, his wife, on his behalf, and just say a few words, because we really appreciate the ongoing support that they provide to us and to the community. So if you can just kind of welcome up Randy Kendrick, come on up.
I just wanted to say something as a civilian. You know, I'm not an elected official, I'm not a police, I'm not a leader of a community organization. But Aaron and AP aren't either. And they use their entrepreneurial energy to create this. And I think each of us should realize that sometimes you do the smallest thing and the ripple out effect, you'll never know. But if you do the right thing, what it can result in is huge. I couldn't believe it. All these young people, they were not segregationists. They wanted this colorblind society. And we're all standing there with the tears running down our face, holding hands. And I tell you, I thought, well, just that little tiny effort, that little tiny 5-minute speech, it rippled out into something really positive, and it was the first integrated group that ever came to Auburn and stayed in the dorms, you know. So I would encourage every one of you, like Aaron, like AP, take a little chance, do what you can within your own environment, because the ripple effect will be huge. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, AP.
We need to demand the very highest standard of the people who protect us, but we must equally be prepared to support them, even when that may not be a popular thing to do. I was told when I was young, pastor, and thin, a long time ago, every generation is challenged to meet the difficulties of its day, but we must be equal to those challenges. The strength, energy, and zeal that we bring to meeting those challenges of our lifetime can spark our lives, can spark the lives of people we touch. Those sparks pressed together can become a flame, and the glow from that fire can one day light the world. It is, in fact, examples of what's gone on this morning that can become a flame on a hill by which others may see that it is possible to enlighten the world in which we live, and we need not ever be relegated to a world of darkness.
I'm here to say thank you to all of you, because you see it is, 1:30 in the afternoon, and you've been here all day. And you're still here. And you're still listening to us. And it is because I believe that you feel, as I do, that this is just that important. The police need the community, and the community surely does need the police. Together, we can win. If we separate and fight with each other, we have nothing but chaos. So I want to thank you again. I'm proud to be the president and CEO of the Checker Flag Run Foundation, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.